Alright, so this week you guys are creating radial symmetry using either your name or any word you like. So to start, you guys need a piece of paper, and most of you probably don't have a square piece of paper, so I'm going to show you what you need to do with a regular size piece of paper to get it into a square. So this is just a piece of printer paper. If you don't have printer paper, you can use a piece of notebook paper, but you want to find some paper that is light and a little bit easy to see through. So if you hold it up to the light, if you can see through it, then that's a good piece of paper to use for this project. So if you're using notebook paper, I would just take off all the little fringes on the edge because those might get in the way. So with your rectangle piece of paper, the first thing you need to do is take one corner and fold it over to the other side so that this edge lines up with this edge. So I'm going to fold it and make sure all the way down, even to this tiny little corner, that it's lined up as best I can. Sometimes this little corner is kind of tricky. If I can line it up pretty good, that's nice. All right, so once it's lined up, you can make the crease going all the way down. And now you kind of have this triangle with a little or a long rectangle at the edge. So what I like to do is just trace along the folded line with a pencil. That way, when I unfold this side, I can see that line, and that's where I'm going to cut. I'm going to try to get it as straight as possible so I have a nice straight edge. Alright, so now this piece I don't need. Now you can see it's a nice square instead of a rectangle. So in order to make our radial symmetry artwork, we have to fold our paper into a bunch of little triangles. So the first thing you have to do is fold your paper in half, which, since we needed to make our square, we already have our square folded in half. So we're gonna just fold it over again into the big triangle. Now we're gonna fold it again in half so the edges match up to create a smaller triangle. And try to get the edges as lined up as possible. Okay, so now that that's nice and folded, we're gonna do it one more time to make an even smaller triangle. So I'm gonna fold it in half again. Just like that. So now the first thing I'm going to do is trace this triangle shape onto another piece of paper to give myself a tracer piece. So I just have a scrap piece of paper that I already was using for something else, and I'm going to just take the corner, try to get a nice matching shape, the same size triangle, and cut it out. So obviously if you didn't have a piece of paper that fit those edges perfectly, just trace around the whole thing. So if it doesn't fit nicely, just put it on a piece of paper, trace around the whole thing, and then cut that triangle out. Alright, so now I have my extra little triangle here and my folded piece of paper right here. So now is where you write your word or your name. So I'm just going to use art as an example because it doesn't take as much time. And the important thing to remember is that you need your letters to go from the top edge to the bottom. You also want to do bubble letters. So I've got an A, and the top of it goes all the way even off the triangle, and the bottom goes all the way down as well. Now I'm going to do an R, that hits every edge, and a T, just like that. All right, so the next step is to trace this onto this triangle. So I'm going to unfold this to make it a little easier to trace. And you can see when it's unfolded, you have 8 total triangles that you need to fill in with your word. So instead of trying to make it look the same each time, you can just trace. So I'm going to use this to create my template. Put it on top so I can see through, so I can sort of see my letters through the paper. If you can't quite see them very easily, it's nice to hold it up. If you have a window in your room, you can hold it up to the window so you can see the light through, and that makes it really easy to trace. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to do it from how I see it here, and I'm going to use a Sharpie. So you could use a black pen or a different black marker if you don't have a Sharpie, but this will help make it easier to see. Holding down the paper helps. Okay, so once you have it traced on the front of this triangle, you also should trace it on the back if you can't see through easily. And since I use Sharpie, it kind of bled through to the back, so I can see it nicely on the back just fine. But if you can't see it very nicely on the back, you might have to trace over your letters on the back side as well. So now I can use this to trace all the way around in each triangle. So I'm going to place this triangle underneath this one right here to trace over the letters. I'll line it up as best I can. And my letters should match up. So you can kind of see, right now I have A-R-T, and that doesn't match up with these. I need the T-R-A. So I'm going to flip this over to the back side of that triangle, line it up. And now I have my T-R-A, T-R-A. So those are matched up. So now I can trace over the letters and try to match them up with both sides. So if it's a little off, I might have to change it. I want my R to connect with the other R. Just like that. So now I can move on to the next triangle. I want my letters to match up, so I need T-R-A. I'm going to flip over my triangle to the side it should be on. And I can see that my T is with my T, my R is with my R, and my A is with my A. So now I can trace it. Make sure my letters connect to each other. Perfect. Now I can do the next one. I want my letters to match up. All right, so you would then continue doing that until all your triangles are full, and you'll start noticing all the letters will begin to connect, and it's gonna start looking kind of like a kaleidoscope and like a optical illusion. So when you're done and you have all your triangles filled in, the next step is to color. And you can color it using whatever you want, crayons, markers, colored pencils, it's up to you.